My name is Grace Ofori-Attah and I am a writer. In terms of growing up, I was born in Glasgow, not that you can tell by my accent. So my parents moved to the UK from Ghana in, I think, about 1982. So I've got an older sister who was born in 1980, and myself and my younger brother were then born in Glasgow. And my parents had a real culture shock when they came to Glasgow because they'd been taught sort of the Queen's English in Ghana, and they came to this very cold place. They had never seen snow before. It was cold. They couldn't understand anything anyone was saying. And then they had two children who had a Glaswegian accent, and they just couldn't understand it either. So shortly after that, we moved south into actual England. Yeah, I've always been interested in writing, and as far back as I can remember, I've been writing short stories, writing my own versions of TV things that I've seen for my parents mainly. And yeah, it kind of came very naturally to me. When I was at university, I started writing a book. I mean, I'd been trying to write books for many years, and started writing one that wasn't too bad, but I only got a few chapters in. And an agent was quite interested in that, but I never finished it. So throughout my sort of medical jobs, I'd be trying to finish this book, just thinking I just need to get to the end. And then a few years ago, I thought, oh, I'll try a script instead. And that was just a revelation to me because I was able to finish it. It was much shorter, much faster process, and really, really enjoyable. So that's my journey in brief, I suppose. I was always interested in science as well. I mean, I was interested in most things at school. I was quite a geek, and I had done quite well in the sciences. My parents were very keen for me to study medicine, very pro vocational subjects, and I insisted on doing A-level English as well, although my dad would have quite happily seen me only do pure sciences. So instead of physics, I did English. And at university, I just kept trying to write. So I was doing a medical degree, but I suppose my heart kind of lay with the arts. And I think to me, writing stories, being creative, I was interested in photography and did that a lot at university as well. It just came a lot more naturally than the science. So I kind of felt like eventually that's where I would end up. Yeah, I kept trying anyway. So I went to Cambridge for the first 3 years of my medical degree, and then I switched to Oxford, which sounds quite unusual, but they used to do this thing where they'd let sort of 20 or 30 students in each year split their degree between Oxford and Cambridge. So I applied, and I was chosen, I suppose. I was selected, and I went to Oxford for the last 3 years of my degree, and it was brilliant. I had a really, really fun time at university, and I would say it prepared me for many things, but not necessarily for the world of work. Yes. Well, I mean, I suppose I had a little bit of a head start in terms of understanding it, because my dad had actually studied theology at Cambridge, and he was someone who liked to collect degrees, I would say. He'd done economics, geography degree, some other degree, shortlisted for Fulbright scholarship, and then he had decided to do theology and did it at Cambridge in a sort of truncated form. Like, he managed to do a 3-year degree in 2 years and had his family in tow. So we were very young and started primary school and things in Cambridge whilst he was studying theology. And I just remember living in this kind of college setting as a really small child, and just he had all these gardens and quads, and it to me was a really magical place to be growing up, having lived in Glasgow in sort of tenement housing, which was quite shared accommodation, quite cramped accommodation, and then suddenly you've got this university town where everyone is studying. You'd have lunch in hall, these small children with lots of other adults, and it was to me Cambridge just seemed like a magical place. So I kind of always had it in mind from a very young age that I wanted to do that. Well, so initially, when I was trying to write the book, and I was doing all my medical rotations, like A&E and things, I found it really difficult to switch off and come home and try and write stuff. And I think now with script writing, because it's quite visual and it's a kind of say what you see process, I find it a bit easier. When I wrote my first script, that being 2014, I was writing about being a junior doctor and was working as a junior doctor at the same time. So I found it just, I don't know, it didn't feel difficult. So I specialise in psychiatry, and I think at the time I thought this is probably the closest experience to what my patients describe as mania, when they have bipolar and they sit up all night writing and just have a stream of ideas that usually doesn't make sense, but luckily mine was coherent. And I don't know whether it was just the relief of being able to write something that just came naturally, and it was so much a part of what I was doing every day that I could just visualize this whole episode. So I kind of, I mean, not actually like having visions, but I had, I just wrote it. I didn't have any kind of training in how to do script writing. There's a lot of good material online, I think. Screenwritinginfo.com or something like that was a good source of help for me. And my sister does a lot of acting as well, so I ran the idea past her, watched a lot of TV, and I think The OC is something I watched like religiously throughout university and have watched many times since then, so I know it kind of back to front. I think the way that the stories are shaped throughout, not just an episode but throughout the series, really helped me, because I had that as a template in mind for how to structure an hour sort of episode. And yeah, that was what I kept in mind as I wrote my first script. So the first script I wrote, I didn't really know what to do with it. We had a friend who was a comedy producer, and I thought I'd written this really dark psychological, drama set on a psychiatry ward, and he receives a lot of scripts. He has known me as a doctor, so was very surprised when I messaged saying I've written this thing, and he was just a bit like, I get hundreds of scripts every year. If it's not good, I will tell you. And he really liked it. So from there I applied to For Screenwriting, which is Channel 4 kind of talent scheme that they do, and I had no hope or expectation of anything coming from it. So I was very pleased when I got shortlisted for that scheme, and it was very unexpected. So I had my interview at Channel 4, everything was very exciting, and I think I was shortlisted down to 20 or so people from I'm going to say about 1,500 to 2,000 scripts. So it was a huge kind of thing for me, saying you can actually write a script. And I didn't get on that year, but they said apply again next year, try and write something different that's not necessarily about your job, and apply again. And I kind of thought, well, they just tell you to apply again, but I'm just going to take from it the fact that I can write scripts. And a year later I reapplied with a different script, this time about the race riots set in Notting Hill in the 50s, which is something that I'd always wanted to write as a book, and then thought, well, now I can write scripts relatively quickly. I don't have to wait to finish that novel. So I wrote that, and I got onto the Channel 4 scheme for Screenwriting 2017. And at the end of that, I got the job working on Idris's show. So again, and I think it's something that I would advise anybody, just contact everybody that you have ever come across who might have anything to do with the industry, because that's how I got my agent. So my sister, obviously she's an actress, so she had lots of acting friends, but she didn't really know many kind of script writers and couldn't give me advice in that respect. And I knew that I needed to try and get an agent. And at medical school, there had been a guy who was a doctor who was, I think, 3 years ahead of me, who had dated my flatmate years before, and I didn't really know him, but I knew that he had done some directing, producing and writing, and was like the only tenuous link that I had. So I asked my friend if she didn't mind me contacting her ex, if she would put me in touch with him. And again, not expecting anything to come of it, just, we vaguely did the same course at university. You were doing quite well. Could you help or point me in the right direction? And he actually put me in touch with an agent from CIA who liked my work. And I remember I was doing a night shift and she wanted to meet on, I think it's like the Friday lunchtime. I was like, hey, well, I'll finish my night shift in the morning, I can sleep for a couple of hours, and then I'll go and meet her Friday afternoon. It's fine because then it's the weekend and I can sort of sleep then. So I met her and she said she wanted to represent me, but the problem was she worked in LA mainly and she'd have to find me a UK agent, and that's how I got my UK agent. She found me the wonderful Tanya Tillett at the agency, who has just been brilliant. So between the two of them, it's just been a bit of a whirlwind. So that was 2016, so a few months before I applied for screenwriting the second time. So I think initially when I wanted to study English at university, that was just a blanket no. And my parents were like, you can just write stories on the side as you've been doing all the time. So I did try and I wasn't really getting anywhere. But Dad, he just had this belief that one day it would be fine. And he kept telling me about other doctors who had written books and things. And he'd always be like, well, this person has done both, and that was just his thing. So when I actually became a consultant and got offered this job writing on Idris's show, I resigned from my consultant post, even though I'd only been a consultant for a couple of months. And there were other reasons behind that too. I was finding it very, very stressful, as all new consultants I'm sure do. But I didn't tell my parents that I had resigned because I was more afraid of that than anything, like their reaction. So first I was saying that I was on annual leave and I came to live with them because I needed to save some money as I didn't have any income. And then gradually I explained that I had just taken some time out, some study leave and things, because I'd taken a year out during my training to work for charity. So they kind of got that. But then when I said that I had this other job writing, they just couldn't understand it. And I'd be at home in the kitchen with my laptop and they're like, but you're not working. You say you're going to be doing this TV show, but who's paying you? Have they given you any money? And obviously they hadn't paid me yet. So they would just have this constant mantra of go back to the clinic, what are you doing? And in the end, once we started filming, what was really lovely was that I said to them, why don't you come along and you can see what I'm doing. And they were completely blown away by the scale of the production, and I'd been working on it for a couple of months, but for the first time being on set and seeing all the crew, all the actors, all the things that you have just come up with randomly in your head that are then suddenly there in front of you, it was just, it was really incredible. And for them, they got so excited that they wanted to be in it. And they decided they wanted to be extras for the day. So they got dressed up. They were extras in my episode, which is an engagement. It's a traditional Sierra Leonean, Ghanaian engagement ceremony. And they played some wedding guests, but they were really bad. So I think the only thing that survives is my dad's elbow or something. The rest got cut out because my mum just couldn't. So all they had to do was walk down a line and pick up some buffet food. And Idris is ahead of them in the buffet, and then he sees some of his friends' family arrive, so he leaves and he goes to greet them. Instead of just carrying on down the buffet, my mum would just watch Idris with a massive grin on her face every time, and then my dad would try and go down the buffet and dropped a ladle, and it just was awful. So not back on set again with those two, but now, they've come, so this time we're filming again. We've just finished filming series 2, and they came back to set, but not to be in it this time. And they love it. They absolutely love it. So that's been good. I think perseverance is really important, and some resilience as well. I think if you feel like you're a writer, it's a strange thing, because I used to wish that I didn't want to write, because every day I would feel like I'm not doing what I should be doing, even if I'd been in hospital and I helped save someone's life or anything good had happened, I'd still not feel I suppose fulfilled is probably the word, but I'd feel like something was missing. And I mean, it's very easy to feel like that when you're doing all the stressful things in medicine, because I don't know how many people feel very comfortable diving straight into that career, but I always felt like I should be writing, and every day that I wasn't, I would think I had failed myself, which probably sounds quite bizarre, but it just was something I couldn't shake. I just felt even if I'm not meant to be like a successful writer, I still have to keep writing just because it's the only thing that makes me feel sort of at peace. I can't really explain it other than, yeah, it was just always this thing, and I often wished I didn't have that desire, because my life would have been a lot simpler and I could just have done medicine and enjoyed that. But yeah, that was always there, and I think that kept me going when my parents were just like, just do medicine. The flip side of it though is that now that I have done it, and done it whilst sort of being a doctor, my parents are like, well, you don't need to quit medicine because you've been able to do both, so you should just continue doing both. But that is not the case. So yeah, they feel like I've just proven their point that what Dad's been saying all along, really. But then, yeah, a Ghanaian dad is always right, as I have come to learn. Yeah, so I think that having studied medicine and psychiatry in particular really helps with the writing. I think a lot of writing is about psychology, well, good writing, I'd say. And I think the reason that people connect with TV so much is that, you know, it mirrors something perhaps in your life, a feeling that you can relate to, an idea that you can relate to, even if you can't put that into words. And that's all about psychology and understanding people. And I think the more realistic the presentation you can write and depict on screen, the more people can empathise with what they're seeing and enjoy it. And I also feel like, I suppose, especially in psychiatry, we often use things like art therapy, music therapy, writing to help people recover from mental illness. So there is a therapeutic aspect to any kind of artistic endeavour, I think. And in some ways, I think that writing TV and film can actually help a lot more people than me being a solitary doctor for another kind of 40 years. I think, you know, you come home from work, often all you want to do is watch something that takes you somewhere else or makes you feel better. You know, you have a rubbish experience, someone dies in your life, you want to go and watch a film that brings up your mood or that touches that kind of pain in you, and you can sit and watch it and weep, and you remember that for the rest of your life. Whereas, you know, I can see a lot of patients and they may not listen to anything I say, and then one day they'll come in and say, oh, I was watching Coronation Street and my favourite character had this thing, could I have that medication that they had? You know, TV is incredibly powerful, and the way now, especially with the kind of digital revolution, the way that people can pick and choose content, there's so many ways in which you can get any kind of message across to people. So I think, yeah, it can be similar to medicine in terms of public health and reaching out to people. So I have just finished doing series 2 of In the Long Run with Idris Elba and Bill Bailey and Jimmy Akingbola, who is a wonderful, wonderful actor and my mum's favourite actor. I think she would swap my brother for Jimmy any day. And then I did something called Grace Under Pressure, which was for Sky Arts, and it's an urban myth about Grace Jones in the 70s, and she has an argument with her rather flamboyant boyfriend, Jean-Paul Goude, who did a lot of her album artwork, and she storms off to get some fresh air on the terrace, and lo and behold, there was a burglar there with a massive afro and a tiny gun, wearing a beautiful Italian suit that takes her by surprise until she finds out that he's a burglar, and then the drama unfolds. And that's based on a true story, so she wrote about it in her autobiography. I think I would like to see more diversity. I know that people say this all the time, But having come from medicine, especially going through Oxford and Cambridge, where there was like not much diversity, especially in the world of medicine, you didn't really have many diverse role models. I thought that TV and film would be more diverse, just by virtue of it being a more sort of liberal kind of industry. And I've just been quite surprised to see that the kind of upper echelons of TV is not dissimilar to the upper echelons of medicine. Same kind of, similar kind of people. So it would be nice to see more diversity. And I think there are some good schemes coming through. Like I just did BAFTA Elevate, coming to the end of that, which was a BAFTA initiative to kind of increase diversity in the industry, get more female voices, people from different ethnic backgrounds. And there are things happening, but not necessarily enough. And what I would also love to see and hear is people not saying that any diverse voice that comes through is purely because of these schemes, and that they're just trying to balance the playing field, and that we are there because we're talented and that we've got stuff to say. And it's not just, for representation's sake. I think that's quite important. Idris, I've got a lot of love for Idris. If you're watching this, Idris, hi. He is great. I mean, when I first met him, I was a bit in awe, and he's just really nice. I mean, like the very first time I met him, he said like if I needed anything, just drop him a line, give him a call. He was happy to have me, contact him, and really welcomed me into the process. And he's just incredibly humble. He's incredibly grateful, and what I think is really great about him is that he is really keen to get up and coming talent kind of through. So in the long run, I was a new writer and I was trusted with a whole episode, which rarely happens. And he also had a director who was up and coming as well, directing the last 2 episodes, and she shadowed a much more experienced director. And again, on this season that we just done, we have a young up-and-coming director called Ian Aye, who is brilliant, who again he's quite near the beginning of his career, and he's just had the opportunity to shoot 2 episodes. And that's something that you don't see happen very often, that you can be trusted with something that big. So I think he's really great at championing young people and doing a million things at once. I swear he must have been cloned. I don't know how he manages to be everywhere at the same time. But he's got great energy. I don't think he sleeps. And he's always brings that to the room, even if he must be exhausted. So he had just directed his first ever film, Yardi, and he was in the edit for that. So we'd have meetings at the edit suite where he'd have been in the suite all day, and then he'd pop out, we'd have a meeting about scripts and things, and he'd be giving ideas, then he'd be coming to rehearsals. With this one, we've had, he was filming, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say what he's filming, but he was filming a film and also doing read-throughs for our show, and also maybe presenting some awards in different countries, but still managing to keep it all going, DJing at some big international festivals all at the same time, and maybe also getting married, all in that same block. So whilst I've been managing just to juggle a few storylines in my head, he's done all of that in the same amount of time. And that's why I think he's been cloned, because he seems to be in different continents at the same time. And always with a smile on his face. Seeing my ideas come to life and be like on screen it is an incredible feeling. These ideas have sat with you for so long. You've been in a room on your own, testing them out, and then to have other people bring it to life and add stuff to it that you'd never imagined, or make sentences you'd written just sound so much better. It's just incredible, and it's the idea that you've created something that just exists and will exist way beyond my kind of time on earth. It's just there forever, and it didn't exist before. And even if someone else had been given the idea to write, it wouldn't look the same. So it just feels like it's something that's entirely your own, and no one can take that from you. It's a feeling that I never had in medicine, because you don't create anything. I think medicine, obviously it's wonderful in many ways, we all need medicine in our lives, but I think as a junior doctor in particular, you feel like you're a cog in a wheel in a big system, and you're replaceable. You know, if you're off sick, there's another junior doctor that can cover although you are essential as a workforce, individually, I don't feel you get that kind of satisfaction that you can get from creating something that can only have been made by you. So yeah, it just satisfied this whole other thing inside me that I probably could never have put into words before, but now that I've experienced it, that was definitely missing before. Yeah.